Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of Fika with Matthew. I'm your host, Matthew, and welcome to today's episode. Now, today's episode is kind of in crisis. Normally, I have sort of like a plan of what I want to talk about, but I just went on a walk to go pick up my Fika. Today, I have a molasses cookie and some Earl Grey tea. Very shout out to the first episode just because I'm not sure if they have molasses cookies in Sweden, so I'm getting them while I can. But today's episode, as I was walking down there, I was talking to a friend and I'm like, damn, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm going abroad to go get my master's, which is lit, like, super excited about that. But I'm just like, damn, my brother is like 18 months older than me. He just bought a house. He's getting married next summer. And I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? I feel like that kind of comes with a lot of moving abroad. Like right before it's time to go, there's this moment of like an existential crisis where you're questioning like your life choices. And that's basically what this episode is. Like, am I doing the right thing by moving to Sweden? And I feel like this episode is going to be reasons that I'm trying to convince myself that this is the right move. And I do know this is the right move, but like to verbalize them. So, like, the existential crisis goes away and I can focus on what I need to do before it's time to move there. Let's have a bite of my molasses cookie, though. So we've got my handy dandy notepad here, cookie and tea at the ready for when I need an intervention of sugar. But moving to Sweden, number one. So I think the main reason why I want to move to Sweden is to grow my international background. I spent a lot of time abroad in undergrad. You know, I did an internship in Bangkok. I studied abroad in Stockholm. I did a research project there. I did an internship there. I did a summer course in London. And then I graduated early. I went abroad to Budapest and continued my abroad background while also working remotely there. So to me, like moving to Sweden is the natural next step in my progression and like trying to get a job after my master's, because to me it's like a master's in Sweden, because like yes, while I've been abroad a bunch, I feel like going abroad for like 2 years and studying at one university and doing an internship there or something is kind of like this capstone to my international background. So when I am looking for a job, either in the US or, you know, in Europe or the UK or wherever I decide to look for it, you know, I can be like, I have like an international background. You know, I'm not going to be that one little person in the background who went abroad one time and be like, oh, I went abroad, like, yada, 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 and yap about it for the rest of their life. Like, no. I actually spent solid amount of time outside of my home country doing something meaningful, getting an education, and actually connecting with people. So, international background is reason number one, because again, it is expensive to go get your master's. You know, I'm paying for it and living costs too. And I really don't know if I'm gonna be making any money over there just because like I don't speak Swedish yet. So it'd be hard to get like a part-time job, if anything. So it's important to consider all that lost income that I could be getting if I were to get a job in the corporate world now. Because like I do have the background and experience already to go get a job. It's just my thing is like I don't want to wait to go do that capstone of my for my masters, you know. But my thing is like I don't want to wait for that capstone of like this international background, because like what happens if it leads to new and better opportunities? Like I don't want to wait around for my life, because it's important to be patient in life and take things slow, but also it's like I'm ready to get out into the world and experience it. I think the second thing to alleviate my existential crisis of moving to Sweden would be slowing down. I know I just talked about saying like, oh, I can't wait to go to Sweden because I want to, you know, go get my master's and continue my international background and I don't want to wait for that. But also, it's like, I do need to remember to slow down in this process and kind of take a beat and be like, get involved with the journey of this whole thing. I don't want to wend my life away, like I talked about in my last podcast about slowing down. The Swedes and the Nordics really do something different, in my opinion, about taking time and building something slowly and actually experiencing life and living life. And to me, it's like, I'm going to get my master's in marketing and consumption. And to me, marketing is all about storytelling. And storytelling, more specifically, good storytelling, is all about perspectives and being able to make someone feel something. And to me, it's like if you want to make someone feel something or leave them wanting more or have this kind of like just basically make them take away something from whatever marketing thing I just marketed to them. It's like you need to be able to have perspective, and that's kind of like the whole point of the international background for my marketing. But also, you can't do good storytelling if you don't take the time to experience life yourself. You know, like if I just sit behind a computer and get into like the AI agents and just have them do all my marketing for me, they're not going to be able to produce anything that's going to make someone feel something, because an AI agent hasn't been able to feel something itself. You know what I mean there? And I feel like the whole thing about like what makes good marketing good as compared to like AI marketing is like people see things, they get inspired, they get, creative, while like with AI, they just replicate what they have seen, not create something new. So I feel like by going and like slowing down and going to take the time to get my master's and experience Swedish life more and just like actually live my life, not only am I completing my goal of slowing down, but I'm also simultaneously getting better at doing marketing because I'm becoming a better storyteller because I'm actually living life. Does that make sense? I feel like to me, this makes sense. Like to me, in this mind, I'm like, this makes sense. And I don't know if I'm just saying like, oh, blah, 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 blah. But to me, like in my brain, this makes sense as a plan. So I'm going to write that down. Here's reason number 3. I am right now not vibing with America. We are just, we're off the rails. America's off the rails, and I'm just not vibing with it. Granted, do I think much of the world is going off the rails? Yes. But I definitely think America not in a good mindset right now, because I really don't appreciate the focus on profit versus people. I don't think that's good. Of course, we should be tracing growth and economic growth, because America's got some debt we need to take care of. But, people should always be the priority. By going to get a master's abroad, that kind of opens me up for job opportunities in Europe and in the UK if I want to look there. Because, like, a lot of in Europe and the UK, like, you need a master's in, or as a foreigner. Like, if I want to get a job in Europe or in the UK, like, for most jobs, I would need a master's. In the US, you don't really need a master's. A bachelor's would just suffice, if at all. But Europe, master's all the way. So that's kind of like the third reason. Like, I don't want to wait to go get a master's if I have an inkling or an idea or an itch or a feeling saying like Europe or the UK is where I want to end up in the long run. Like, I'd rather get my master's done now and have that in my back pocket. So after it, I'd be like, oh, if I want to stay, I have the opportunity to. Because getting a master's abroad is basically like a visa option or a pathway to staying and getting a job, even though it is difficult. And each country has its own requirements and, different language requirements that make it difficult to navigate. I just want to say this, like, I think it's important to realize that a lot of the world takes time to poo poo on America, and I get it. We are a dumpster fire right now, like poo poo all the way. But I also think it's important to realize that America is such a huge country, and we have so many people here. We are a country that basically was born 250 years ago and was founded on people who were here, indigenous people, people who came here from European countries and other countries around the world, and people who were forced here. So, America is basically a melting pot of people who were here, came here, and were forced here. And because of that, we really are a melting pot of different people and cultures and languages. And to me, like, that's what makes America great. And that's why I love London so much, because it's such an international city. And I really think like an international background is something that's so important for people to have, because just because you know how to do things one way doesn't mean it's always the best way. Each country has different things to offer, different perspectives, different ways of doing things, that when you look at them all together, it kind of, you can kind of pick out, be like, oh, this country or this religion or this culture has this really going well for them, but not so well with this. But that culture has something better to offer with that, but not with that. So you can kind of like splice things together and take away what you think makes you a better person from that international background. Thing number four, I don't want to wake up one day and have this like dreaded feeling of what if, like saying like I had this existential crisis and I decided not to go to Sweden and I decided to go get a job where it was comfortable, like either in Maine or in Boston or in, somewhere close to home where I felt comfortable and I had friends and just be in an environment that didn't push me to grow in the ways that I wanted to grow. I don't want to wake up with this feeling of like, what if? Like, what if I actually went and got my master's abroad? Like, what would my life look like? And to me, it's like, now is the time to take a risk. Because if I go and get my master's and it all blows up, I'll be, I think, 24 when I graduate, 25, something like that. And so I'll still have like a good 5, 6 years of my 20s to rebound after that. If I need to come home and work and save money before moving somewhere, or I need to come home and look for a job because I couldn't find a job there, if I wanted to stay. Because to me, it's like I would rather take the risk now and have it all blow up in my face and utterly fail and have to come home rather than not take the risk and just stay somewhere comfortable and settle for something that will, still keep me happy and fulfilled, but not be able to grow in the ways that I want to grow. Because I do like to seek out environments that push me and put me in uncomfortable situations, because while they may not feel great in the moment, once you get to the other side of them, I just feel so accomplished and self assured. And I feel like, wow, like I did this, this, and this. And because of that, I'm able to look back and that be like, wow, like I got through all of these things, even though most people would say like would have given up at some way along the route. And because of that, it only makes me feel like I can get out there and conquer a new unrealistic goal. It's like I can set a new goal that's crazy or maybe out of reach, but if I like show up and like put my best into it, even if I do fail, like I can still look back and be like, wow, look how far I came, because while I may not achieve that goal, it could open up a pathway to a different goal. I need to just go and see what I can do and test my skills, because again, I don't want to wake up at 25 and dread where I'm at. Of course, I can always change, can always adapt to the new situation. I was like, I don't want to wake up a couple years down the road, 10, 15, 20, how many years, and be like, wow, like, what if? What if I actually did go? What would my life look like? Now's the time to take a risk. I'm young, and that's basically it. Like, I got time. I have time. Time is my greatest asset right now, and I don't want to waste it because time will compound. Like it will compound, while if I start later, I'm not going to have as much compounding time. So I got to go and take the risk. Reason number five is I think I'm more creative when I'm in Europe. I think when I'm in the US, I'm very analytical. And I think that's the beauty of my brain. I would say that my brain is unique in the fact that I'm an extremely rational, analytical, and data driven person. That's kind of why I love marketing, because I love the numbers. I love looking for patterns and I love having a data backed approach. Because to me, like the data makes me feel comfortable taking risks, because I can rely on certain numbers or patterns that I think are going to help me get to my goals. But I do think I'm also very creative in the sense with I love to daydream and think about my life, how it would look like in this regard, how it looked like in that regard. I love taking an out of box approach to things and how I tackle life. And I think Europe really makes me more creative, because I really think I truly am slowing down and living life when I am in Europe as opposed to the US. And because of that, I think my creative side feeds my analytical side of my brain, and my analytical side feeds my creative side of my brain. And it's kind of like this symbiosis where as one is feeding the other is also feeding the other side, if that makes sense. To me, it's like, say, like I'll daydream and be like, oh, what if my life it looks like XYZ? And then I'm like, I fall in love with the idea and I'm like, wow, like I want to achieve that. Then my analytical side of the brain's like, well, dang, like, how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to get to that goal of whatever that may be. And then my analytical side will figure out the steps and figure out what I have to do. And if something gets dicey along the way, my creative side of the brain will figure out an out of box approach to that. And I feel like this is something that I've really worked on over time, like training my brain to, be able to have this, like, I don't know, sort of mentality of like, we'll get through it or we'll figure it out or XYZ. Because I think that, again, Europe makes me very creative. I think when I'm in Europe, I'm very creative in the sense of how I do my social media, my vision for just the whole outlook of like my social media and my marketing. And I think that really makes me a better marketer and storyteller and when doing branding. And then I think my experience in the US has really helped me be very data oriented and analytical. For heck's sake, I was almost a finance major if I didn't graduate early. So I think that symbiosis is something that's really good. And having been in the US for a while, like I think being in Europe for a couple years is only going to expand my creative side more, which is something I really want to expand more of because I want to keep growing. I don't want to remain stagnant. I really want to keep evolving throughout life. Like there is no peak. Like I did not peak in high school. I did not peak in college. There is no peak. I just keep going up and up because there's a new adventure and there's something new to get better at. I feel like that's kind of like my outlook right now. Number 6 would be I really want to get more comfortable with myself. When I was younger, I would never spend any time alone with myself. I was such like a group person. Like I would always want to be around people. I'm a very social, outgoing person. I love spending time with people. I love my friends. I love meeting new people. I love being a part of clubs and societies and activities. And like when I was young, like that's I would fill all my time with just hanging out with people. And I think that goes back to like when I was younger, like not having as much confidence to go do my own thing. Like I'd always want to do things with people. And when I wasn't doing something with people, like I would just not really do anything by myself. Like I wouldn't want to go to the movies by myself. Like I just like wouldn't want to do like I just didn't really have a big interest in doing activities by myself. Like if I wanted to do an activity, I would want to do it with someone. And I think being abroad really forced me to get comfortable with myself and slowly I've become my own best friend because I remember my first solo trip to Paris. I was alone. I didn't know anybody. A part of me felt really sad. Like, wow, like I'm in Paris and I'm alone. Like, this sucks. Like, why am I in Paris alone? I should be with friends. But also, I was like, at the same time, like, I'm in Paris. Like, what? I'm in Paris alone. It was during Fashion Week. Like, I remember feeling so happy and so sad at the same time. And then, same like when I went on my next solo trip to Copenhagen, I felt the exact same way. Like I had moments of feeling sad and like lonely because it is like a reminder of how alone you are. But I also think that loneliness is so freeing because over time, it really taught me how to be comfortable with myself and really become my own friend and become so comfortable with myself where, it led me to go abroad for 2.5 months on my own where I didn't even know anyone. And, while it had its challenging moments, it was also so great and such a rewarding experience. And it pushed me to, going back abroad to Sweden where I don't know anyone for the next 2 years. The more opportunities I give myself to have this alone time and like a new place, I'm just going to feel so much more self assured in myself because, this is such a cliche at this point because everyone says that, but like you really only do have yourself throughout life. And, who knows if I'll ever meet someone or if it's just gonna, if I'll ever get married or, find like a significant other. But like, I also don't feel like I need anyone in the sense because I know I got myself. It's like, I know how to make myself happy. I know how to make myself feel fulfilled. I know kind of like the ins and outs of myself of how to navigate life and find fulfillment without another person. I feel like number 7 kind of like ties in back to number 1, but it's like the world is so big yet so small at the same time. There's so many places to see in this world, and it's like you only get one life, and there's only so many things to do in life. To me, is like the best way of slowing down is filling your life with new experiences because I don't want to be one of those people who gets trapped in a job and the years just slowly fly by because nothing's changing and you're just going through the same motions. Like, I don't want that to happen to me. I want to keep filling my life with new and different experiences. So where time is slowing down because it constantly something is changing or something is new. Of course, I want to keep things and find things that stay the same in life, like maybe another person or, you know, finding some place to call home or, you know, different things. But I want to keep adding a new aspect in my life that's going to remind me to slow down and stay present. And that's kind of going back to number two, but and number one. But there's so many different countries in the world that I want to see and so many different cultures and perspectives that I want to understand because I don't want to be one of those people who never leaves their hometown or who never wants to stop growing in life. Like, I don't want to look in the mirror and be like, yep, I'm happy with the way I am right now. Like, nothing needs to be changed. Like, I want to keep working on myself and become the best version of myself possible. And I think traveling really does that for me because I am faced constantly, with a new obstacle each day and I have to just figure it out and use what's in my toolbox and what I've learned to tackle these problems. And I think experiencing new countries and cultures and experiences around the world is the best way I can enhance my tool set. I think number eight, this will be my last one because my cookie's almost gone, is when I think I'm abroad, I think I'm a much more grateful for what I have, my experiences, and most importantly, my family and friends. I think relationships are the easiest things to take for granted in life. And I really think that travel has made me more appreciative and grateful for my family and everything they have done for me. Because sometimes it really takes a village to make a dream happen. Like my move to Sweden right now, it's a whole family affair. Like my grandparents are always like wondering like what can we do to help you. Like my grandmother right now is fixing my pants for me that I want to bring to Sweden because I picked these pants up in Stockholm and I don't want to let them go, so she's fixing the zipper for me. My mother is doing everything she can to help me just get sorted and packed, and it really takes a village to make something attainable. And when I'm abroad, I feel so appreciative of those relationships. Like, I'm always like, oh, I want to jump on a call with my grandmother, or I want to jump on a call with my mom or my grandfather or my dad or whoever it is, and just even if it is just for 10 minutes, it just really lifts my spirits. And I think that's better because when I do get to see them, it really makes me more appreciative and cherish our time together. I've been playing golf with my grandfather this summer. I've been hanging out with my grandmother. I'm going to make pickles with her on Friday. I've been spending a lot of time with my mom. My dad's up in Maine this week from Virginia. So I've been spending time with him too. Even like when my brother and his fiance were up, it was great to see them because they just moved to Alaska, which is crazy. So yeah, like I just really feel appreciative of the people that I have in my life. And I think travel has really given me that perspective on them because I grew up with them so close. And I think that's something I took for granted. And having that distance is really a physical reminder of how appreciative I am of, them. And with that, I honestly feel like these things have definitely alleviated my existential crisis of this move to Sweden. I was just on my walk to go pick up my cookie and I'm like, oh, what do I want to talk about? And it's just like get an email saying like, here's something else to do. Here's something else to take care of for the move to Sweden. It definitely makes me anxious and nervous, shooting myself off on a little plane into the unknown. And it's that big question of, am I doing the right thing moving to Sweden for my master's? Like, am I? Who knows? Like, only time will find out. But this list right here definitely are reasons why this is a risk worth taking. I want to keep working on my international background. I want to slow down so I can become a better storytelling and marketer. I want to avoid the what if feeling. I want to grow creatively. I want to have more self fulfillment. I want to enhance my skill set through travel more. And I want to appreciate loved ones. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, I lied. That's just 7 things. But those 7 things are definitely reasons worth taking to go abroad and attack this next chapter of my life because 2 years in Sweden, that is going to be a crazy, crazy experience that I'm always going to look back at and have incredible memories of. And with that, I'll have a final bite of my cookie. The Fika today is a 7. Even though it's just a molasses cookie and just a cup of tea that I have not drank yet because I've been too busy rambling, I'm ready for this next chapter. It's gonna be great. And with that, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching.